Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is It's Friday already. I've skipped a Friday. It's the Mucking Fun Day.
Right,
Welcome
Friday.
back from the weekend. I hope you had a good one. I hope it was nice and fun and relaxing and nothing bad happened to you, as we're going to tell you everything else that's happened over the weekend and today on a new week of Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we started, and we haven't had any caffeine. So let's roll out of bed and get into these news stories. Today on Before Coffee, Japan's Iga issues first local residence certificate listing same-sex couples as spouses, and runner probably bitten twice by a wolf. Bystanders chase away the animal in Gelderland.
This is Roger from the United States, where an idiot has tried to set fire to the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, allegedly.
Coming out of science news, genetic background has relatively little impact on people's salaries, but their location does.
And 6 famous women are headed to the edge of space. We'll find out who.
In culture news, a collective sigh of relief, how Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain went down in Poland.
And it's National Look Up at the Sky Day, which if you try looking down at the sky, you're going to be very disappointed. For April 14th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
Yeah, it's Monday. How did your weekend go? You did nothing or you did a lot? You emptied out that truck, I expect, or that van, I guess. Got all that stuff out of there.
That happened Friday.
Yeah. Well, because you wanted to do it on Friday. That's true. Wanted to finish it off so you'd have to pay for it more.
Right. You're renting a car. You don't just sit on
Yeah.
it and go, well, I'm here.
Let me just leave that in my driveway for 5 weeks.
Pay $150 a day for an
Hell no, yeah, exactly. All right. Let's roll the wheel here so we know what segue to do for my story. Also, hello, Amlin. Good morning, and thank you for stopping by for some nice Before Coffee. It reminds me of a song. So, my first story is about gay Japanese men, if you have a song about that, let me know. This is coming off of the Mainichi. I don't know who it's written by. Maybe it's written by nobody. I think it's just written by Yashiro Onishigishi, Iga Resident Bureau. That's the only name I can see on here. Coming out of Iga. This month, the municipal government in Japan has begun issuing an original municipal residence certificate for same-sex couples registered under its partnership oath system, officially designating them in family relationship entries as unregistered husbands and wives. So even though they may not be married, they're unregistered, and they're still living together, so they get all the bonuses of living together. On the morning of April 2nd, Masahiro Shimida, 49, and Katsunori Kano, 45, who publicly registered their partnership in 2016 under IGA's partnership system, applied at IGA City Hall resident section counter for the newly introduced certificate based on revised city guidelines. The city subsequently issued them the new 2-page document naming Kano as head of the household and Shimada as husband unregistered. So Shimada is, yeah, that looks about right. I was looking, because they always do that, right? Like, who's the man in the relationship, even in same-sex couples? And it's like, yep, that looks right. Shimada is definitely the husband, not the head of the household. Well, you'd have to see it to trust me. Just trust me. Holding the newly issued document, Shimada commented, "In the future, I hope we can legally marry. This is a big step forward." While Kano added, "I feel secure living in a city that issues this." The unique municipal residence certificate is derived from the original resident record maintained under Japan's Residential Basic Book Act. Like certificates issued according to national law, the municipal version costs 300 yen per copy. Wow, that's nothing! Whereas, like, buying your own birth certificate from a notary is like $100 or something, However, the certificate differs from standard versions as it contains text clearly stating This certificate registers in Iga City as described above, and below the mayor's name and an official seal, and a note reads, "This certificate is not a resident record under the Residential Basic Book Act, but a certificate listing family relationships based on the partnership and family oath system of Iga City and Prefecture." Which is just saying you can't say this guy can't visit you in the hospital because they are legally partnered, okay? They're in a family, so they are considered family members, or any other laws that are all about family members, right? They're officially family members. Under the current national regulations, Shimada's relationship status would have to be noted as a cohabitant, but opposite-sex couples not legally married can be officially recorded nationwide as unregistered husbands or wives. Mayor Toshinao Inamori called the difference discriminatory and unacceptable, and emphasizing the significance of moving to the officially designated same-sex partners as husbands or wife. The city reported that to date, 13 couples have registered their relationships under the partnership oath system prior to apply for new municipal residence card, with 10 couples currently maintaining active registrations. So there's your news coming out of Japan, and a little equality for everyone in the gay rights area. You know, Japan is forward thinking and sometimes backward thinking sometimes, so it's always good to see them, you know, do something that just makes paperwork easy. Because if anyone who knows anything about Japan, it's the paperwork. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of paperwork, so this probably takes out, 15 papers you have to sign to prove, hey, this guy lives with me. I've known him for 20 years. He's my husband. Here's a paper. Okay, we believe you now because this paper was signed by the mayor. Randy, you have any songs?
I guess We Are Family. I don't know.
We are family.
Yeah, there you go. There's
officially on this stamp. Alright, my next story, which is also kind of short, is about a wolf attack in the Netherlands, specifically Gelderland, which is in the eastern part of eastern north or whatever. It's over there. It's nowhere near me, but maybe soon. The victim was taken to a hospital and treated for injuries. DNA was also taken to investigate whether it was really a wolf. I was like, I got bitten by a wolf. That was just a husky, or a malmet or whatever. It was a wolf, I swear. Results of that investigation are not yet available. The province has announced that in a consultation with the municipality of Ida and the Hoge Veluwe National Park, says it's preparing for steps in case some wolf shows this type of behavior again. Unfortunately, yes, a lot of animals who attack people, including bears, end up getting taken out because they don't want violent animals to kind of exist in our human claimed society, so to say. So if a wolf's it is very odd because wolves really aren't aggressive. They do work in packs, but they don't like loud things and they don't just attack you for no reason. So unless it was like a female wolf protecting her pups or something, it's very odd that a wolf chased her down and bit her in the leg. I see a wolf standing at the distance, says wolf expert Glenn Lelyveld after seeing the first photos taken by bystanders. Wild wolves attacking people does not just happen, according to him. I assume that there will be proper research and that possible scenarios will be carefully considered. Because if a wolf shows excessive interest in people, immediate action must be taken, he believes. Shooting is the last option. There are a few steps more that you can use for that. You have to put a transmitter on the wolf so that you can monitor whether it structurally comes too close to people. If this wolf comes too close, a veterinary can easily sedate the animal a short distance with a tranquilizer dart and then attach a transmitter to the wolf's neck. Lelyveld has previously had no indications or photos that it was actually a wolf. He also surprised that the province did not report the incident to a special reporting center. Of course they have one. We've got the special wolf reporting center. It probably wasn't a wolf. That old broad is just crazy. She thought it was a wolf. According to the park director, Segor Baron von Vorst, that's a very long name. There is no doubt as to which animal it is. It's completely clear that it is a wolf, he responds. And DNA like that can take years. We're not going to wait for that. I don't know what's going to take. Maybe back in 1800s. Two bystanders saw the biting incident happen, says Van Vorst. One arrived a little later. All three were able to see the wolf from quite close by. And all of them were wolf experts, so they know exactly what a wolf looks like, I'm sure. I think that if you and I had been there, we would have known for sure that it was a wolf. Oh, that's in Dutch. I can read it, but I can't translate it for you because I can't read. I mean, I can read it.
Just read it.
The wolf in question is said to be a known person. The wolf is following people. As far as it knows, no previous bite incidents involving the animal have been reported. Will the park take additional measures now that someone has been bitten? We have to ask the government, says Van Vorst. We have no say. According to him, the solution is Scandinavian method. Wolf comes into a residential area close to people, you have to eliminate it. The director also does not plan to place an additional sign in the park to warn people about the wolf. Those wolves roam the entire Valewa. Yeah, and he explains, you can also be attacked by wild pigs. You have the oak presbycery caterpillar, ticks. Soon the entire park will be full of signs. Yeah, we're not going to put a sign for every danger, yeah? Warning! You can get harmed in nature, you know? That's the only sign they need. You're going into nature. This isn't a city. The website does not indicate that what you can do if you see a wolf. Visitors with questions about the wolf at the entrance to the park will be informed. We should not scare people either. Very Dutch. That's a very Dutch thing to say as well. Yeah, if we're gonna put 15 signs up. You can die. It's fine. Just get on with your life. If you don't want to get attacked by a wolf, don't go outside. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, there's my news on a wolf in Gelderland. I don't know if you have a story for that or a segue for that.
Song. Well, it reminds me of Werewolves of London, even though it's not London.
Werewolves of Gelderland.
It won't make no difference what city you're in when it's eating your face.
All right, let me roll my segue.
All right, roll it.
Rolling. Hypothetical. I'll give you a hypothetical situation based on your story.
Okay. A man has been charged with allegedly setting fire to the Pennsylvania governor's residence. Here's what we know. This is from CNN, Lex Harvey and Zoe Satil. All right. Pennsylvania State Police have charged a Harrisburg man, they say, broke into Governor Josh Shapiro's residence early Sunday and started a fire while his family were sleeping. While Shapiro and his family were sleeping. Shapiro and his wife Lori, their 4 children, 2 dogs, and another family were forced to evacuate from the home, which was significantly damaged by the fire. There were no injuries. Cody Balmer, 38, who, well, enjoy prison, moron, turned himself in. The police has since been charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, terrorism, and other charges in connection with the fire, which occurred hours after Shapiro and his family hosted a Passover dinner. Balmer said he was angry with the governor and would have beaten him with a hammer if confronted. Oh, okay, you're a real brave man. According to the
He's really building a case against himself, isn't he?
Yeah, he's really going, I want to talk to a lawyer. Nope, he's just telling everybody, I'm guilty. And of course the newspaper, allegedly. There's nothing alleged about this. It happened. Anyway, Shapiro, 51, was elected Pennsylvania governor in 2022 after spending 6 years as state attorney general. A prominent Democrat, he was one of several candidates considered for former Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate during her 24 presidential bid and has been floated as a potential presidential candidate for the 28 race. Here's what we know about the alleged attack and the response by officials. Shapiro and his family woke up around 2 a.m. Sunday to loud bangs on the door from one of the state troopers assigned to their detail, alerting them to the flames, Shapiro told reporters. According to the audio from the Dauphin County fire at the EMS scanner obtained by CNN, a caller reported a large fire on the first floor of the governor's residence, adding they could see fire out of the windows. Balmer hopped the fence surrounding the residence, broke 2 windows with a hammer, and climbed in through one to get into the home, where he deployed homemade incendiary devices to start the fire, according to the affidavit. Balmer was inside the governor's residence for less than 1 minute and actively evaded troopers who were searching for him at the same time, Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens of the Pennsylvania State Police said. He clearly had a plan, he added. He was very methodical in his approach. After starting the fire, Balmer kicked down the dining room door and fled the scene, according to the affidavit.
Wow, he's not even trying to be conspicuous at all.
Yeah. The Bureau of Fire responded to around 2 a.m. and extinguished the flames, according to the state police. Shapiro, his family, and their house guests were evacuated safely by the police. Bivens said security review is underway to determine how we can ensure that we don't have a repeat situation like this. After Balmer fled the scene, a woman who identified herself as Balmer's ex-partner called police to say that Balmer had confessed he was the one who started the fire, according to the affidavit. Balmer then turned himself into the police headquarters. During an interview with police, Balmer said he removed gasoline from a lawnmower and poured it into beer bottles to make Molotov cocktails, which he threw into the governor's home, the affidavit said. Geez, he just confessed to the whole thing. This is going to be a quick trial.
Yeah, that's why it's called terrorism. That's why he's being filed under terrorism, because it's like, yeah, I wanted them to be scared. And I'm proud.
Balmer admitted to harboring hatred towards Shapiro and said if Shapiro had found him inside the home, he would have beaten the governor with a hammer. Oh, good for you, idiot. Talking to police, Balmer said he knew it was possible Shapiro and others were home at the time of the acts, according to the document. Balmer's arrest comes days before he was expected to court to plea in a hearing in a separate case stemming from a 2023 simple assault charge, according to state court records. CNN has reached out to the attorney representing Balmer in that case. In another case, Balmer pled guilty in 2016 to forgery and theft by deception charges. Court documents show this guy's an all-around winner. I can't function in this polite society is basically what this guy is saying.
Yeah.
Lock him up. This is why we have prisons, for people like this. Balmer could also face federal charges, the district attorney. Oh, he ain't going to face federal charges. Don't worry about that. Trump will just pardon him. The FBI's Philadelphia field office is assisting state police in the investigation, the agency told CNN. The state police said the fire caused a significant amount of damage to the governor's residence in Harrisburg. Photos inside the residence show torched walls and ceilings, ash-covered floors, and destroyed furniture. There are remnants of the Passover dinner the governor hosted Saturday, including a Passover crafts sign. The Pennsylvania governor's residence is 29,000 square foot Georgian-style building in the Susquehanna River, which has been home to 8 governors and their families since it was completed in 1968, according to the Pennsylvania government. The residence first floor houses both temporary and permanent art exhibits. It is an emotional news conference Sunday. Shapiro said the fire was an attack not just on his family, but the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He expressed gratitude messages for support and prayers he and his family received, including numerous politicians. Vice President Vance called the attack really disgusting violence, and Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania described it as truly appalling. I want you all to know that your prayers lift us up in this moment of darkness. We are choosing to see light, Shapiro said, choking up. Shapiro sharply criticized political violence on both sides. Elected officials have faced a surge in violent threats in recent years, including a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2023. This type of violence is not okay, Shapiro said, his voice rising.
Obviously.
We have to be better than that. Still, Shapiro said he will not be deterred by the alleged attack. No, it's alleged. Oh, yeah. We're not sure it happened. If
he said I would hit the guy in the hammer, but we're not sure. We don't want to get sued.
Yeah. We'll put alleged in here somewhere in paragraph 9. If this individual is trying to deter me from doing my job as governor, rest assured I'll find a way to work even harder than I was, he said. The governor also highlighted his pride in his Jewish faith. If he was trying to terrorize our family, our friends, the Jewish community who joined us on Passover Seder in that room last night, hear me on this. We celebrate our faith last night proudly, and in a few hours we will celebrate our second Seder of Passover, he said. No one will deter me and my family or any Pennsylvanian from celebrating their faith openly and proudly, he said. And I'm doing the fist shaking. The fist shaking is mine. Anyway,
yeah.
There's your story. An idiot trying to set fire to the governor's mansion.
So you're telling me that if I just, I can just be alleged, I can just say I did a crime and allegedly, in that newspaper. That's insane to me.
That's right.
Also, I liked when somebody said there's violence on both sides, because when I'm thinking both sides, I'm thinking crazy people and people who are in power. And yeah, there are definitely crazy people in power too. The fact that this guy has so many different history of violence, right? Assault charges and all. Oh, but we didn't think he was gonna commit terrorism.
Yeah.
Sadly, you can't predict these things until that UK algorithm, right, where they're gonna predict crimes based on your previous actions, right? In a hypothetical situation, the UK will save us all.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. This guy will be eliminated in the future from our future predicting who's a criminal. Yeah, this will never happen. Of course, we'll never have anything ever again, except
But it'll be worth it, I'm sure. All right, you're gonna have to write me a haiku for this next story, which is all about genetic background not having any impact on people's salary, according to the study. This is on Novatar. I don't know who it's by. It's by somebody. Somebody wrote this. A person's genes only have a small impact on their income, and the environment surrounding them is more important, according to an international study conducted with the participation of researchers from the University of Tartu. However, the result may be useful in planning health studies that include genetic factors and interpreting the results. Where's the University of Tartu? I thought it was in Sweden, but it might be Estonia. Sorry, this is in Estonia. Coming out of Estonia. In fact, this connection is very weak. We see that 1 to 5% of person's income depends on their genetics. We cannot predict a person's income genetically. This proportion is simply so low, and there are many other factors. We cannot say about one person that according to genetics, the universe has destined you to have such an income, said Eric Abner, a researcher in functional genomes at the University of Tartu and co-author of the study in the program Labor. Although genes have a measurable effect, environmental factors, especially education, are more important. In total, the researchers looked at the genetic data and income of more than 600,000 people, who were divided between 12 Western countries, starting with Estonia and ending with the United States and Australia. Despite the different cultural and economic backgrounds, the results were very similar. The genetic effect on income was small in all countries, and the environmental effect came first. Estonia was always right there in the middle. It did not stand out from any other country, confirmed Abner. The researcher noted that although the direct link between genes and income is modest, a number of genes affect income more indirectly. For example, there are a number of gene variants known as to affect a person's ability to cope in school and to acquire an education. This in turn also has an impact on working life. However, the impact of each individual gene is small. It is very, very polygenic, meaning that both income and education are affected by many different genetic variants. All of these gene variants have a very small impact, explained Abner. He also looked at the relationship between income and other aspects of human life. We see that higher income is associated with a lower risk of developing chronic diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or depression. We also see that at a genetic level, Abner said, citing an example. However, Abner stressed that this is a complex interaction where genetic risks, education level, and socioeconomic status influence each other. For example, as long as it's been known that the more educated a person is, the healthier they tend to be. What was a bit more surprising to the researchers was the income was associated with risk-taking behavior. For example, they smoked more and consumed more alcohol, which is also linked to certain gene variants. We know that smoking is very strongly genetic. Nicotine receptors play a role there. Brain genes that influence whether a person wants to smoke at all, or where that feeling and desire arises. Oh, really? So you can genetically be predisposed to being a smoker? Well, I'm glad I avoided that. Or maybe I just have a lot of self-control, I don't know. I've never tried. The research suspected that people with higher incomes may make riskier choices in business, investing, or career choices to achieve success. For example, that more cautious people would not make. This type of behavior may also be linked to personality traits such as risk-taking, in which genetics again can play a role. In general, people with higher incomes have had to make decisions in their lives that are perhaps a little more unconservative, jumping into the dark or into the water somewhere unknown, Abner reasoned. He referred to a recent study by psychologists at the University of Tartu, which found links between personality traits and career choices. Genes play an important role in the development of these traits. For example, more than 300 genomic regions associated with neuroticism have been identified. However, personality traits are once again polygenic. meaning that instead of one strong gene, you don't have the gene to be the best at business. You have hundreds of genes that play a small role in influencing you. This is a polygenic and complex picture. One gene does not say that a person is now neurotic or extrovert, the researcher emphasized. Although the impact of genes on people's salaries is small, Abner said that conducting such a large-scale study was still justified and necessary. Of course, that was expected. You don't blindly go and do such a study, especially on such a scale. It is important to do such studies precisely to understand whether genes play a role or not, the researcher said. This in turn helps to identify not only direct but also indirect connections between genetics and human behavior or health. This can also lead to more accurate results in health research. For example, it turns out that income is linked to diabetes or heart disease, and other studies need to consider income or its genetic determinants as important background variables. If I want to study diabetes, maybe there is a very strong effect of income on a person, or maybe education, body mass index, or other secondary indicators are enough. We need to be aware of the different determinants that raise and lower risks over a person's lifetime, Abner gave as an example. The main recommendation that the researcher has made based on the study concerns education. The best education possible. It is my simple recommendation, said Abner. The work clearly shows that the level of education is the strongest factor in influencing income, both statistically and genetically. Since access to education is generally good in Estonia, this means that quality education does not necessarily depend on where you live. But if you don't live in Estonia, you may have to think about somewhere else. Maybe where you live, it actually is bad. I don't know. I want to know what the list was, like the countries that scored really low on this index. Those people need to maybe go somewhere else, maybe Estonia. Abner emphasized that although genes can influence a person's ability to learn, and intelligence, education, hard work, and life choices are still crucial in determining income, things that a person can influence. However, he cautioned that the links between risk-taking and income seen in the study should not mislead anyone. Greater risk-taking is not a value in itself and something to consciously strive for. For example, it does not mean that drinking alcohol or tobacco can contribute to a better income. No, definitely do not start smoking or drinking more alcohol and hope that your income will increase from this. Definitely not, Abner stressed. Yeah, I hope nobody is taking that result from this study. Okay, so the editor was Jan Johan Oderma, and this came from Prit Ennet in Labor, which is the name of the study. So if you want to read the whole study, look for Labor by Prit Ennet. That's Prittennet, if you want to read the whole study. Good to know. Nice to learn. Give me a haiku.
Oh, haiku time. Are we there? Are we listening? Yep. Okay. 10 fingers and toes. We are all built with same parts. Genetically, which is 5 syllable word.
Genetically.
All right.
Nice ending there.
Right.
The great thing about haikus is you can really get that slammer at the end. That's the whole point of the last stanza. Alright. Bad pun from me.
Bad pun for you for women in space. That would be able to figure out, right? This is also from CNN, as we're mining CNN for stories today. Katy Perry, Gayle King, and 4 other women are headed to the edge of space. Here's what that means. This is from Jackie Waddles. I don't know why Jackie Waddles. Probably she has some kind of chafing problem. Anyway, that's her name. Her name is Waddles. W-A-T-T-L-E-S. Jackie Waddles is a writer. Blue Origin is taking a star-studded crew of 6 female passengers to the edge of space on Monday in one of the most closely watched suborbital space tourism missions in years. The flight will last about 10 minutes, carrying the group more than 100 kilometers and 62 miles into the sky, and offering a few minutes of weightlessness before they descend. But at what point during the flight will singer Katy Perry, journalist Gayle King, and other fellow passengers reach space?
Space, yeah.
It is when they look outside their window and the blue glow of the sky fades to black. It's when they reach an altitude at which satellites can orbit. Or is it when the atmosphere grows so thin that it no longer plays a defining role in the flight physics? In the spaceflight community, there is no hard and fast definition. Maybe there is, but not for this article. Space can be defined in several ways, and the usefulness of the criteria for determining where it starts can depend on the scenario. That's why various organizations around the world use different altitudes to mark that invisible threshold for record-keeping purposes. And for suborbital space tourism, quibbling over definitions can take on a life of its own. Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, for example, have been known to spar publicly over the matter, mostly because of one specific means of defining space, the Kármán line. Perhaps the most well-known and controversial demarcation of space, the Kármán line lies at 100 kilometers or 62 miles above sea level. Blue Origin suborbital New Shepard flights travel just past that altitude, but the company's chief competitor, Virgin Galactic, does not. Its flights so far have reached up to 88.5 kilometers or 55 miles, which is still beyond the 81 kilometer or 50 mile mark that the U.S. government has long used to define space. Still, Blue Origin has pointed to the Kármán line to assert its rise as a more legitimate path to earning astronaut status, saying in one 2021 social media post that none of our astronauts have an asterisk next to their name, a subtle dig at Virgin Galactic. Defining an astronaut, however, is almost a different matter entirely. In the early days of spaceflight, the U.S. government established the 81-kilometer definition as a basis for awarding astronaut badges to military and NASA pilots. The Federal Aviation Administration has also given out commercial astronaut wings to private sector individual adventurers who reach higher than 81 kilometers or 50 miles. But the agency mostly did away with that program in 21, opting to list participants on its website rather than award physical badges to private sector flyers. SpaceX has also awarded its own set of silver wings to non-government passengers who fly its orbital Crew Dragon capsule. So in practice, deciding who is and isn't an astronaut is up to the record keeper. Former NASA astronaut Terry Virts told National Geographic in 2018 that he was not too concerned with gatekeeping the astronaut designation.
I want to gatekeep it.
Yeah, let's make sure. Yeah, let's be a gatekeeper for that nonsense. If you're strapping your butt to a rocket, I think it's worth something, Virts told National Geographic in 2018 when asked about the issue. When I was an F-16 pilot, I didn't feel jealous about Cessna pilots being called pilots. I think everybody is going to know if you paid to be a passenger in a 5-minute suborbital flight or if you're the commander of an interplanetary space vehicle. These are two different things. In the public imagination, however, the idea of an astronaut often conjures images of a person floating in weightlessness, surrounded by the black cosmic expanse. But experiencing weightlessness has little to do with the altitude, at least. Not at the relatively low ones that the Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic fly. Earth's gravitational pull will still be tugging on the Blue Origin capsule when it reaches weightlessness at apogee, the term spaceflight for very top of the flight path. But the astronauts will be weightless because the energy of the rocket and the capsule drummed up after liftoff will be canceled out by Earth's gravity, giving them a minutes-long version of the sensation people experience when they reach the peak of roller coaster hill. In contrast, astronauts on the International Space Station remain weightless for months at a time because they're in an orbit around Earth, which requires far faster speeds than New Shepard's suborbital flights travel. Record keepers, however, have not stipulated that a person must travel to orbit to be deemed an astronaut. Civil and military pilots who commanded the X-15 aircraft to altitudes above 81 kilometers during a test campaign in the 1960s, for example, were given astronaut wings. The U.S. government uses 81 kilometers to mark the defined space for many of the same reasons that other organizations use the Kármán line. The latter may just calculate the phenomenon differently. Theodor von Kármán, a Hungarian-American engineer and physicist and founder of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, was among the first to attempt to describe the altitude at which aeronautics becomes astronautics. But even Kármán's initial attempts in 1950 were inexact. The atmosphere is indeed dynamic and fluctuates in density, which makes any delimitation imprecise, according to the 2014 study on the definition of space. So the Kármán line fluctuates between 84 kilometers and 100 kilometers. Notably, 100 kilometers is how the Swiss-based Federation Aeronautique Internationale, or the World Air Sports Federation, defines the Kármán line. It's been that way since the 60s. Scott Newman, president of the Federation's Astronautic Records Commission, ICARE, told CNN. The Federation suggested in 2018 that it might lower its definition of altitude in response to the new research about the Kármán line, but the organization ultimately didn't take such a step after crunching the numbers. Man, this is really talking about this Kármán line way too much instead of about the people going into space. I thought we were going to get the names of the people that were going into space, but that's too much for this article to give us.
Yeah, I guess so.
Talk endlessly about the Kármán line. Spence Wise, Senior Vice President of Space Missions at aerospace manufacturing company Redwire Space, told CNN he believes the more accurate altitude is closer to 80. Vehicles, mostly discarded rocket boosters, have returned from space after out of orbit by atmospheric friction. For context, the vacuum of space isn't always a vacuum. Earth's atmosphere actually thins out over thousands of miles. Okay, so this is a long article that really just kind of keeps going back and forth. Where's the space start? Where does space start? When actuality,
they're talking about the exact fundamentals of like, how can we prove that these people are astronauts? Basically.
But instead of naming the people that are going in the capsule, which is the point of me reading the article, it doesn't do that.
Yeah. It just says like two people and then a bunch of other people.
Katy Perry, Gail King, Lauren Sanchez, Aisha Bowie, Carrie Ann Flynn, and Amanda Gwynn. Those are the names. Okay, I only heard two of those, so I think I know where Lauren Sanchez is. Anyway, there's your article.
They're the people. They're sold to Jeff Bezos. That's what people are saying on the internet anyways. A lot of people are like, I don't respect any of these people who sold their soul to Jeff Bezos. In my big pun or my funny, I don't know if it's a pun. Here's the pun. Why did the astronaut wake up in the middle of the night?
I don't know.
He heard a big bang.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. Also, that one astronaut was saying, or that one pilot was like, we don't want to gatekeep astronauts. I'm like, yeah, we should actually, because I think saying I'm an astronaut because you did zero training, went into like a luxury spaceship for like 11 minutes and came back down. That's not, for me, an astronaut is somebody who goes through training for years, does gravity training, you know, and then is like, I'm going to go to the International Space Station. That should be the signifier. You go to the International Space Station, you do your rotation there. That's like saying I'm a Marine because I, went to boot camp. I didn't finish boot camp, but I went there. I was there. I'm a Marine. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, let them have their thrills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying don't call them astronauts. Call them something else. I don't know. Let me roll the Segway wheel here.
Space tourists.
The tourists. Space tourists. Mixed metaphor.
Mixed metaphor. All right.
Okay. For my culture segment, we're going to talk about Jesse Eisenberg's film, A Real Pain, which we've talked about before on the show, I think around when the Oscars were happening. And we're looking at how the Polish people liked the film, if they liked it at all. Well, it looks like they did, actually. This is from Adria Petroziko on The Guardian. Eisenberg's Holocaust heritage comedy drama was a big hit in the country where it was set. Some have questioned its lack of engagement with locals. Historians, critics, and heritage tour guides give their thoughts. A Real Pain, Jesse Eisenberg's film about two cousins on a heritage tour of Holocaust-related sites in Poland, has been largely embraced by Polish audiences, who appreciate and understand its humor and conspicuous good intentions. Within a month of its release, the film had grossed more than $1 million at the Polish box office, no small feat for an indie production in Poland. There was a collective sigh of relief, said Vogue Poland film critic Anna Tatarska. There was a Hollywood Holocaust narrative that didn't cast Poles as historical villains. Poland's fraught relationship with the Holocaust narratives have made films touching on it into political battlegrounds for at least a decade. Since the nationalist backlash against films such as Aftermath, which is called Polski, in 2012, and Ida a year later, each of which confronted Polish complicity in the wartime Jewish persecution, cinema has become a flashpoint in Poland's ongoing struggle with historical memory. Against this backdrop, A Real Pain occupies an unusually diplomatic position, and its politically neutrality helped Eisenberg's film achieve what others couldn't: an acceptance not only from Polish audiences, but also officialdom. Yeah, if you do any history into pre-World War II Europe, you will find that anti-Semitism was quite rampant, and Hitler was just gliding onto an already running anti-Semitism that was in the depths of Europe for a very long time. And not just Poland, everywhere. Everywhere, all the time was expelling Jews and, having prejudice against them and beating them up for, I don't know. An example is washing their hands. Oh, those Jews aren't getting sick from the plague. Yeah, they wash their hands. Yeah, they're doing witchcraft. No, that's just getting rid of the germs. They're the ones who put the plague. It's them. This is just an example. President Andrzej Duda went on as far as granting Eisenberg Polish citizenship during a ceremony in New York in March. Eisenberg, who had been interested in becoming a Pole for nearly 2 decades, called it an honor of a lifetime. Poland is a great as an idea, it gave me a certain meaning that I was missing, he told the New Yorker in November. Having a connection to something bigger, something historic, something traumatic, made me feel like I was a real person, not just floating through the lucky life of shallow emptiness. There's a great example of the American problem, I suppose. But while A Real Pain was promoted as Eisenberg's love letter to Poland, many Poles feel it failed to represent them adequately. Perhaps more tellingly, the film's only significant interaction with the locals occurs in a single scene near the end, when the Copland cousins arrive at the house where their grandmother used to live and briefly talk with neighbors. Poles are otherwise background characters, a mostly voiceless crowd of receptionists, waiters, and taxi drivers. Poland is only the backdrop here, a beautifully and wealthy decoration that is essentially empty because no real people inhabit it, historian and writer Irina Budzinska-Gross said. Witold Brzezinski, the director of the Jewish cemetery in Warsaw, noted that Polish Jews, a community that today numbers some 30,000, are completely absent from the film. Before the Holocaust, Jews made up 10% of Poland's population. Of the 3.5 million living there in 1939, only about 300,000 survived. It felt as if Eisenberg sent his love letter without an address, he said, as we watched as outside spectators. Brzezinski recalled that after a special screening for representatives of the Jewish community in Warsaw, there was a sense that the film missed some opportunities, mostly because of its choice to not develop local characters. At least have one, tour guide or something. One guy that, gets in the hijinks with them, right? Because it's a comedy film. The most unexpected cinematic situations during heritage tours happens at the crossroads between the visitor and the Poles, said Brzezinski, who spent years leading such tours. Yeah, he's basically saying, why didn't they ask me? I could have been in their film. I do heritage tours. What the hell? I could have been in a film. The Copland cousins arrive and leave Poland more or less unchanged, a narrative choice that is intentional and self-aware. Yeah, sometimes finding out what your heritage doesn't really change anything else about you. That's a true statement, right? Some Americans especially, right? Americans are famous for being obsessed with their heritage. Some Americans are like, yeah, I'm Italian, I'm from blah, blah, blah. My family's from there. And then they go there and they realize they're not special. No one gives a shit that you're from here. And that your family went to America, 200 years ago. And now you're back. No one cares, right? And a lot of people are very hit with that self-aware and intentional thing that, wait a minute, I'm not special. I'm just a human being like everyone else. I'm just an Italian, an ancestor. My ancestors were Italian. That's it. That's just a sentence, that's how special it is. It's just a sentence and description of my life. Anyways, so I think that's my idea anyways, why Eisenberg decided to end the the film in that self-aware way. Just to be like, yeah, guys, this is a normal reaction. No one cares that you're from Poland. I think that people on these trips put a lot of pressure on themselves to feel something. We're very good at manufacturing that kind of experience that we expect to have, said Adam Sorin, a writer from New York, who has worked as a heritage tour guide in Poland. What I found is more interesting when visiting Holocaust-related sites are questions about the nature of remembrance, such as what are we actually seeing? How can we engage with a place that has been photographed a million times, perhaps recently renovated? Maybe you just cry, I don't know. The most biting critique, perhaps, lies in the film's selective amnesia, the sidestepping uncomfortable conversations about wider anti-Semitism in Poland. We don't get to find out what happened to the cousin's family during the war, and why their grandmother emigrated soon after. She must have had a good reason to leave, right? Otherwise she would have stayed, says Grudzinska Gross, who was forced to flee Poland in 1968 amid an anti-Semitic campaign. Yeah, it was just the same as everyone else, right? She didn't want to get killed, so she left. I think many people fell into the trap of expecting too much from this film, and assuming that since it's connected to the Holocaust, it must be epic, it must be another Son of Saul, said Tataraska, who can interpret these artistic decisions negatively. There were people in Poland who did, but I would expect them to be more financially driven. I think this is a genuine love letter, but written by someone who has less lived experience and more ideas about Poland could be. But despite its shortcomings, Brzezinski sees the film as a heartfelt attempt on overcoming disconnections. There's more of them each year to restore memory, to catch these threads before the Holocaust, and to talk about how their ancestors died, but also how they lived in here for 20 generations. And if this film encourages anyone to do this, that's great. So there you go. My little segment here, on Jesse Eisenberg's new film. A real pain if you want to, have a cathartic experience of what it would be like to go on a heritage tour, and you don't have the money to do it yourself. Watch the film, I guess.
Yeah, but I sent you a film. I sent you a video.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. My mixed metaphor is like historical type movies are like a big stew where everybody wants to put their own ingredients in. It's like, that would have been so much better if you would have added, whatever, cilantro or something. I don't know.
Oh, wow. You're telling me my ancestors weren't famous bakers in this street specifically? Nah, they were just guys living,
That would have been such a better movie if there was some big epiphany at the end.
Yeah.
There wasn't. So, there you go. All right, National Day.
Segway wheel.
Mystery.
Another bad pun for me. Got something in this, I'm sure.
Bad pun time. From this day in history, all the way back to, it keeps going. My Lord. All the way back to the year 193. Yeah, way back then. 193, Septimius was declared emperor of Rome by his troops and went on to found a personal dynasty and convert the government into a military monarchy. Yeah. In 1471, as we go way ahead, the deposed and exiled King of England, Edward IV, defeated King Henry VI's forces at the Battle of Barnet near London, enabling him to retake the throne. In 1828, Noel Webster published an American Dictionary of English Language based on the principle that word usage should evolve from a spoken language word. The work was hugely influential, although it was initially attacked for its Americanism. Well, it was an American dictionary. 1866, Anne Sullivan Macy, Helen Keller's teacher, was born near Springfield, Massachusetts. Happy birthday, Anne Sullivan. Happy birthday. American businessman J.C. Penney opened his first dry goods store in Wyoming. Wyoming, not Washington. So the first J.C. Penney store was opened in Wyoming. What's so funny, huh? 1904 is John Gielgud's birthday, an English actor, producer, and director considered one of the greatest performers of the generation of stage and screen, particularly as a Shakespearean actor. Happy birthday, John Gielgud. 1924, American architect Louis Sullivan, the father of modern American architecture, died in Chicago 101 years ago today. 1939, American author John Steinbeck's The Classic Grapes of Wrath, which was set during the Great Depression and traces the migration of Oklahoma Dust Bowl family to California and their subsequent hardships as migrant farm workers, was published. So the Grapes of Wrath published in this day. 1941, Pete Rose was born, American professional baseball player, known for his all-around ability and enthusiasm, was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, also known for being the all-time Major League Baseball hit leader who was permanently banned from baseball for gambling. 1952, American author Ralph Ellison published his debut novel, The Invisible Man. A Bildungsroman, I don't even know what that word, I've never seen that word before, that tells of a naive and idealistic young black man is widely regarded as a classic. I've never seen the word Bildungsroman. I've never seen that word before in my life. I have to look that up. I was interested in where you want to use words I've never seen before. 1986, in this day, of course, the U.S. warplanes based in Britain bombed several sites in Libya, killing and wounding several of Muammar al-Gaddafi's children and narrowly missing Gaddafi himself. So we just decided to kill some children on this day in 1986. 2003, researchers announced the end of the Human Genome Project. Over the course of 13 years, they had successfully determined, stored, and rendered publicly available the sequences of almost all the genetic content of the human genome. Almost all. Well, that's not quite good enough, is it? In 2004, Bartholomew I, ecumenical patriarch of the Eastern Orthodox Church, formally accepted the apology offered by Pope John Paul II in 2001 for the sacking of Constantinople, now Istanbul, by Crusader armies in the 13th century. Well, you finally got around to apologizing. 8 centuries later. 8 centuries late. 2010. Here's another word I can't pronounce, but it's a volcano in Iceland began sending ash plumes into the skies, disrupting air traffic for days across northern and central Europe. The name of the volcano is Eijafjallajokull. If you can pronounce that, good luck. I don't even want to try. Let's try it. Eijafjallajokull. That's the best I can do. 2004, the Islamic sectarian movement of Boko Haram kidnapped more than 275 girls from a boarding school in Chibok, Nigeria, sparking worldwide condemnation. Remember that one? 2021, American hedge fund investment manager Bernie Madoff died in federal prison at the age of 82. Famous for the world's largest Ponzi scheme, so he died in prison at the age of 82. Probably one of those resort prisons, so we'll see. I don't know, probably. On this featured event in 1865, Abraham Lincoln was shot on this day, April 14th, 1865. Just after the effective end of the American Civil War, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth while attending a production at Ford's Theater, Washington, D.C., and died the next morning. So that was a terrible day in American history. The country really never recovered from that. Julie Christie's birthday today, British actress. She was born either this day in 1940 or 1941. We're not sure. But hey, she's still her birthday. So other birthdays today, John Gielgud, we got Loretta Lynn, coal miner's daughter, birthday today. She was born in 1932. We did Julie Christie, we did Pete Rose. It's Sarah Michelle Gellar's birthday. American actress, born in 1977. She's turning 48 today, yeah. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer is 48 now. Don't you feel old?
I think, yeah, I guess, but I wasn't really alive to watch that series, I guess.
Sure you were. Anyway, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is 48 other days today. Look up at the Sky Day, National Pecan Day, National Ex-Spouse Day. So call your ex-spouse and say, I still hate you. Anyway. And it's National Gardening Day. Good day for that. Very nice and springy today. And National Dolphin Day. Those are your days, your spin to the wheel, your mispronunciation, your birthdays, everything for this day, April 4th. April 14th. April 14th, 2025, before pecans.
Okay.
Pecans.
I don't really have... There's so many things on this day in history, so I'm just gonna do another space pun. Because I can. You can't stop me. Where's my space puns? Space puns. Here, let me put myself on screen here. Where did astrophysicists go to school? Rocket and Hole High School. There you go. Rocket and Hole High School.
Terrible, man.
Add puns. That's what we're here for.
Wrong.
Alright, it's also International World Chagas Disease Day by the WHO. Chagas disease, known as silence or silenced disease, affects mainly poor people with access to healthcare, people without a political voice. The disease progresses slowly and often shows an asymptomatic clinical course. Without treatment, Chagas disease can lead to severe cardiac and digestive alterations and become fatal. Raising awareness of the disease is essential to improve rates, early treatment, and cure, together with the interruption of transmission. World Chagas Disease Day was celebrated for the first time in 2020. So let's not celebrate Chagas, but have some awareness about it. Tell more people about it. Be silent or silence disease, and help the victims of Chagas disease if you can. This has been Allison here from Netherlands and Roger from the East Coast of the US. As we tie up another fucking fun day, it's been Monday. It's already started off with, with something. We're starting in the week, whether we want to or not. We will see you tomorrow for our Good News Day, in which we cover all the good and positive news we can find, so that we can breathe and light and hope into the world. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. So I hope to see you for that. Make sure you subscribe to the Alan Raj channel. Turn on those notifications so you know when we go live or post a video. And let's go to our Holocaust Heritage Tour Polish mic drop moment.
Call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. Boner is not available.
Hey, Benji, I just got to the airport. I really hope you left already.
Remember, it's a comedy. This is,
I got some good shit from when we land.
Wait, you're not, like, taking weed into Poland, are you?
I don't think he was ever an actor before this
I
role.
think they very much do give a shit about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Kieran Culkin, he won an Oscar
Neighbors
for
and
this.
I,
Yeah.
cousins. We used to
Probably
join
because he
at
was
the
an
hip.
actor
Our
before and everyone was
grandma
very
from
impressed.
Here, so Dave arranged for us to join this geriatric Polish
Macaulay
tour with you
Culkin's
fine
brother.
people.
Yeah.
For the Home
I
Alone
really
kid.
needed this, man. I know that it's tough for you to leave your boy. I don't really have anything going on.
And yeah, I think it's more of like
I
a
know
buddy
it's been a
cop
tough
film,
few
not
months
really
for
a
you,
buddy
so-
I
cop
also want to
film,
say
but
that I know you're not the most comfortable person with people.
I'm not?
No.
Does it look real?
Well, they're twice the size of you in metal, so...
You sure you don't want to come up here?
I'm good.
Can you take my picture?
That's what I'm talking about. Marcia.
Thank you, David.
But it's amazing that you're here, putting yourself out there so
what the
boldly
hell?
for
A
me.
lot of people go to take
smoke a joint.
pictures.
Word of warning, this will be a tour about pain.
Our grandmother and Benji were super close.
I mean, she was the coolest. I've just been in a real funk, I guess, since she died. Just haven't,
Yeah, that's what grandmothers do. Oh, it's considered a road movie. Yeah, fair enough. It is
We
a
completely
journey.
cut ourselves off from anyone else's true pain.
Why are you doing this?
oh man, you used to like feel everything.
Obviously, there are triggers along the way.
We're not at the right station.
And you didn't wake me up.
Oh, you're having such a good nap, dude.
Jesus
you were like,
Christ, you're
"I'm
on a tour."
sorry."
It's really not a big deal if you miss it.
Wake you up.
You're at the wrong train. Yeah, Americans always freak out. Oh, we got off the wrong station. There'll be another train in like 10
And I
minutes.
hate
30
him.
minutes. It's fine.
What the flying jeez.
And I want to be him.
You used to cry about everything.
Yeah, it was awful. Who wants to cry about everything?
When I
On a
first moved
Holocaust
to the
tour.
Netherlands, I also
Now is
freaked
not the
out if I
time to
missed
grieve.
my stop.
I'll
And then I was
tell you.
like, wait, I can just wait for another one and go back.
trailer.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.